Hi, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. It's Kenneth Price. This is Zoom call number 17 on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Kenneth Price is my dream character, but my other dream character is the psychiatric shaman. Psychiatric shaman has started a whole ministry. It's just beginning to take on a life of its own. And the name of the ministry is Psychiatric Sobriety. And this is the Sunday morning Zoom calls. We're now doing 2 Zoom calls every week for I have my own slogan for the courageous souls who have chosen to exit psychiatry, surrender their pharmaceuticals, and penetrate the veil of mental illness. It's a very unique ministry. I'm getting Jody's going, yay! And I have no credentials. I am not a psychologist and I'm not a doctor. So we don't come in here and we don't discuss symptoms and we don't bring forward any allopathic remedies. However, that being said, I am a way shower and I am a wounded healer and I have qualifications. And many people who come into this room also have qualifications. This is a support meeting. We support each other. And my qualifications are all over my YouTube channel, and now they're all over my website. I was 25 years polydrugged. They said I had a mental illness when I was a young man, and they said they had pills that could fix my mental illness. And over the course of 25 years, those pills created more mental illnesses than they never were able to solve in the first place. So I've got a whole psychiatric parable. It's all in my rear view mirror. But because of that psychiatric parable, I'm a wounded healer and I'm a lighthouse, and I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm one of you folks. I'm one of you. We join together in this, and together we emerge from these psychiatric parables. They're not psychiatric parables, they're psychiatric. All right, so here's something I'm going to do. Robert, I'm going to have you mute yourself. Everyone's muted themselves so far. And let's see if I can do the participants, Robert, and I'm going to mute you, okay, because you got background noise. So let me get back to my spiel. This is being recorded for YouTube. So if you look down in the description line below, I've compartmentalized everything into a website. So all this information is available on psychiatricsobriety.com. I'm becoming technical on this end. Everything that I bring forward in these Zoom calls is all going to be on the website, which will give you links to all the information. No. Mute. Mute. Nathan, we'll get to you in a minute, but I gotta. Sorry, folks. I'm not a YouTube person, so we got to make this funny. All right. Some of the guidelines for this. We're not here to help others. We're not here to fix others. We're here to offer support. And the way this one operates, this is a very unique Zoom call. Is we're assembling so that we can view these parables from a different perspective. Now, I understand that the challenges and the difficulties in this community like the back of my hand, because I was in a withdrawal, and many of the people who I bring on as lighthouses were also in a withdrawal. So if there's more support than we're able to offer in this hour-and-a-half recording, please use this as an opportunity to get connected over there in the chat feature. Okay, what you can do is since we don't have the time or the resources to go into stories and symptoms, etc., there are people on board who can do that with you private one-on-one. This is a good thing. So I've got to pretty much compartmentalize how we take this hour-and-a-half. And since there's a huge need for this, folks. I don't need to tell anybody the powerful vacuum that exists, and we're not going to go into the problem. That being said, I'm being guided to go full-time into this direction. So since I am starting a ministry, I am accepting donations, and they will be in the website, a link to my PayPal account. I think my introduction spiel is going to be a little bit shorter this time. So that's about as far as I feel guided to go. Now that I've been a total dickhead and told everybody to mute themselves, this is your Zoom call. I take this, and this is what I say every time. This is not. I don't have structure. As a matter of fact, if you look at my website, you look at my YouTube, there is zero structure whatsoever. And that's because structure is how I got into my psychiatric parable. Structure was what gave me my mental illness. Linear formats and timelines, created fear, which was the foundation of my mental illness. We're going in the opposite direction, folks. No more structure. We have something more valuable than structure. We've got something called guidance and intuition. Guidance and intuition, emerged my soul out of that 25-year nightmare. And that's what I have to offer. It comes in the form of what I call reconnection. And basically, in a nutshell, like my last YouTube video, I just put it very simply: fear causes mental illness. And in the words of Krishnamurti, to be well adjusted to an insane society is no sign of mental health. So all of us here, we're getting the hell out of Dodge, and we're unbelieving these stories. And the stories contain, I'm not going to sugarcoat the stories. These stories have gone down deep into the subconscious level, and they've alchemized into these very, painful trauma wounds. And I'm somebody, and the other was that I bring on board have brought the trauma wounds up and alchemized them, and are emerging, in miraculous ways. So let's get this show on the road. I've said too much. Who wants to jump in and pick the ball up and run with it? And if nobody raises their hand, I'm going to pick Jody, because she is a phenomenal way shower. And this is exactly what this community needs, is hope. People who have descended. Now, nothing has gone wrong, folks. I cannot emphasize that enough. I chose full responsibility on steroids. I chose to be lost for 25 years so that I could emerge and shine a light for others who are seeking hope. We're gonna reframe everything during this hour and a half. And we got somebody who's a heavy hitter here. Her name is Jody. If she could unmute herself, I know she can pick up the ball and run with that.
Thank you, Kenneth. Wow. Picking up the ball from there. So my last name is Ball, so I'm very happy to pick up the ball, Kenneth. So my name's Jody. I too have a horror story from my experience. 13 years polydrugged, 13 drugs I got off of. We're not going to go into stories here, because you know what? That's not where the power is. I mean, there's a little bit of power, because our stories show us how powerful we are. We're all here today because we have survived our stories. But that's like the lowest level, right? Survival is the lowest level. I have a tattoo on my wrist right here. It says survival, because for years and years and years, I thought that was the most important thing in life, because you know what? I come from hell. I survived hell. And then after I survived hell, I learned how to thrive. And so that's why I'm here. I came back into this community. Like Kenneth said, I love that way shower. I'm a way shower. I have so many tools that I have learned due to my story that taught me how, not only how to survive it, but once I got over that aspect of it, I've learned how to thrive. And so, way shower, yeah, I've got so many tools, and I'm so excited to start sharing these tools. I'm also so stuck. I want to create a YouTube channel. I want to start creating videos. I'm not there yet, but here I am right now to shine so much hope on all of those who, I don't know where any of you are in your story, but wherever you are, we're in this together. Let's do this. We can heal together. Thank you.
See, I told you she was going to be a heavy hitter. All right. We've got somebody new on board. Well, Rebecca, I don't think you're new, but Naren, you're not new, are you? No, I recognize you. Naren, you look new. Would you like to jump in? You both have to unmute yourselves, because I, made sure everybody muted themselves. Naren, I already asked you to unmute yourself. Rebecca, how about you? I'm picking on people. There you go. Well, Rebecca, you
Oh,
unmuted yourself first.
hi all. I was, yeah, and we all have different stories and journeys, and you know, depending where you were at in your journey, I think some people, especially, you know, depending on the day, and I'm guilty of this too. Want to tell their story because they don't think that anybody else can compare, to the hell that they've been through. But we've all been through really horrid things, and it doesn't really matter, when you're in an accident. It doesn't matter the details of all the details of that accident. It's how are we going to get better? And that's what I keep having to remind myself. I know I'm guilty of going down the rabbit hole, the negative thinking and thinking of how did I get here? That doesn't help. We got to move forward. And, I know that some days that's easier said than done, if I'm being completely honest. But we really got to try our best to, reframe it, reframe and heal and, one day at a time, and not go back and not go too far forward. Just, what are we going to do in this moment to be better, and or to contribute to healing? And it's something I struggle with, and maybe somebody can give direction on this, is because I thought this solution, a certain solution in the past, the meds was the answer, or to help. Obviously it hurt, is trusting the ideas that people come up with that have helped them. That is something I struggle with, spiritually, going, to this person's religion, and they believe in this method, and okay, but is that going to harm me? That might have helped them, but is it going to harm me? So maybe I could open that topic for discussion.
If you're going to open that topic for discussion, then you come to the right place, because guess what? We brought on board a Pathways of Light minister, and his name is Sean Nelson. And if he can unmute himself, he can jump on that because he's got credentials when I don't. Go, Sean.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Kenneth. Thanks for inviting me this morning. I just jumped in on the tail end of that. So
trust. That was what I heard, was trust.
Yeah, that's the same word that just came up for me. Exactly. Trust. Each person's path is unique and different. And it really is what we're doing here, is relearning how to trust our connection to source, to the divine, to God, whatever you call it. That's really our job right now. That's what we're all doing, is trying to establish that relationship of trust. And so it is a matter of like listening to your heart and your intuition. And yeah, maybe you walk into someone's church that invited you and it doesn't feel good, and that's your intuition saying that's not your path. But maybe someone gave you a book to read and you really resonate with that, and that's your intuition telling you this is for you. And you need, so just jumping in real quick, I know this call is about getting off of psych meds, which I've been there, done that too. And yeah, the whole journey is about coming back to that connection. And so it really is about establishing trust. And it's hard. It's really hard to reestablish that trust when we've been damaged. We've been through trauma. Everybody's experienced trauma. If you live on the planet, you've experienced trauma. And so it is a matter of opening our hearts and listening. And the trust factor comes from understanding that, I don't want to be too general, but I'm going to be kind of general. that we live in God. Is really it. There's nothing to fear. But we've been programmed that we have everything to fear. But the more we start trusting that we are essentially divine beings ourselves, and because of us being a divine being, we are entitled to that connection to the divine, to source. And because of that entitlement, I'm a Course in Miracles teacher, so if you know Course in Miracles, awesome. If you don't, bear with me. The Course says many things like, I am blessed as the Holy Son of God. And that does not, it's a really huge thing, for the teacher of the Course to tell us such a thing. I mean, that's like, in my old religion, that was like blasphemy to say something like that to yourself, to own that. But everybody on this call is here because we want to awaken to the truth. We want to know something that's tangible and real. We want to be able to sink our teeth into having that faith that, yes, we are divine beings. And it's just a matter of perception and healing and letting go of the pain of the past and welcoming in the love that we truly are, that helps us come back to that place of faith and trust. I feel like maybe I'm talking in circles, so I'm gonna.
Well, no, you're not talking in circles, and I'll tell you why, Sean. Because this is a very unique Zoom call for what is called the medically injured community. Because everyone who has been in those Facebook pages long enough has realized that narrative has been going in a downward spiral. Medically injured. Now, if you watched all my videos, I throw the word injured out the window. I'm a wordsmith. We're going to rewrite the narratives here. And if you see the title to the website that I created, Psychiatric Sobriety. I'm handling this like my 12-step, history, like a treatment center. And this is what needs to be discussed in treatment centers. Treatment centers is about, 10% getting off drugs and alcohol, and the rest is living life on life's terms. Now this is the hand we've all been dealt. And Sean, has, and I'm bringing on board others who have the solutions so that we can weather these storms. Withdrawals are not, medical illnesses. They're storms. They're clouds that are covering the sun. And like all good mariners, we're going to stay at the helm, and we're going to ride out the storm, because Sean is I'm doing Hollywood squares here. Sean is describing the sun. Jody is describing the sun. Sean's doing the same thing, and we bring others on board. So we're doing this work together. That's how I am emerging. People think emergence is an on-off switch. It is a lifestyle decision, and all of us come in here, we make this decision over and over. I think it was Rebecca who, it's still my propensity to want to go back into my story every day. You've got to hear that every single day. My story is gravity. This is called the work. We were not taught this by our religions. We were not taught this by our public education system. Certainly the allopathic model is great for setting bones. We had a whole discussion on Wednesday, on the what allopathy can do. And now we all know what it shouldn't be doing. It's no business layer brain chemistry. Now, now that I've ranted, let's see who else we can bring on board. Sophie, can I put you on the spot? Because can you unmute yourself and maybe turn your camera on? Sophie, and here's why I want to bring Sophie on board. She's been on, Sophie's and I have been doing this work together since October. Now, this is part of how it works. And I even posted a video, how to ask for help. Sophie is an example of how we asked for help. Sophie was having if it was okay for me to share it, Sophie, she had a bad day
Sure.
yesterday. And I had free time yesterday, so I posted on the Zoom chat, available with my phone call. She reached out to me, and together we began to unwind the fears together. Sophie, do you feel comfortable sharing at all about that yesterday?
Yeah. It was very wonderful because a word came up, and that was trust. I needed to hear that. It's something I struggle with and have for a long time. And in the withdrawal, it has been heightened, that all my, like, I don't trust myself, I don't trust anybody else, and just going in circles. So I was really bad yesterday. I was with my phone. I saw the text that Kenneth put in, like, I'm available. So I just clicked right away. I called him, and then we started out, we wrapped the theme, and then we actually ended up laughing really hard. And that was when Kenneth said to me, like, that living is a cosmical joke, that we're not here, to have a perfect life, because we aren't, those thoughts, that's not what we are. So we ended up laughing, and me too. I think it was the first time I really laughed in a long time. So those two things, I got to laugh, even though I'm in a lot of pain, really bad. And I got to be remembered about the word trust. Like, I need to start affirming that to find something that I can hold on to. Because it's been such a huge sadness that I have not felt trust to myself or the world for so many decades. And now it's just like, yeah, it's been nagging, but now it was like a bomb. It blew up in withdrawal. It was like, oh gosh. So if anyone can want to talk about that, how I actually wanted to ask you, Jody, when you had your when you talked, what if you had a problem with self-blame for where you ended up, how did you find, what tool, like, because you said you have so many tools now, if I would like to just pick one, like, oh, could you please tell me how you worked with cutting out self-blame, if you were.
Yeah, so what really helped me with self-blame was the understanding that everything happens for a reason. And it's way above me. It really has nothing to do with me. It does, that's not right. It does, it's got everything to do with me because it's my life and it happened to me, but not in victimhood, right? So I have a horror story, and coming out of that horror story, there was a lot of self-blame. That I listened to the doctors, that I thought that they had my best interest, all of that stuff came up for me. And what's coming up now that I want to share with you is forgiveness. We have to forgive ourselves for what we did before we knew what we know now. A lot of what I'm going to share on YouTube is, if I knew then what I know now, things would be different, right? I'm sure we can all say that because we've learned so much on the journey. And it is a journey. And I love how this group, how Kenneth keeps bringing up emergence. And on Wednesday, there was ascension, right? And so I learned how to use what happened to me, that victimhood that I felt for so long, like my whole childhood was victimhood. Getting into the mental health system was victimhood. Like, it was all just, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. And so there's power in our story. There's no power in victimhood, right? So what really helped me, so a practical tool, deep breathing. Get connected with your body. Whether you want to breathe into your heart or your belly, whatever feels right to you. And just really understand and talk to yourself like you would your best friend or your child or, somebody else. Remove yourself out of it. I find, like, I still struggle with self-love, so I find it easier to bring somebody else into it, right? Like I'm talking to you or my best friend or, just anybody, and just really, it's okay. I didn't know then what I know now. And if I knew then what I knew now, things would be different. So right now I can let go of all of that stuff and just really breathe into that. And like Sean said, we're surrounded by love. It comes down, it doesn't matter if you have a religious belief system. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I separate the two. There's a thick line for me between the two. But even if you're not spiritual, the sun shines on us. That's love. And the sun shines on us completely unconditionally. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done, the sun is shining on you. And that's love, right? And same with the planet Earth. So even if you're not religious, even if you're not spiritual, you can still conceptualize that we're surrounded by love. And so I like to bring that into my deep breathing and into my forgiveness practice. If the sun can love me unconditionally, how come I can't? That's a good question. Let's breathe into that. And then and it's a process, right? You start where you are. I love the breath work. It's so powerful. I start where I am, and usually I start in struggle, and I breathe into that. I bring myself down into my body, and I keep breathing in the love, and I let go of whatever. If it's trust, if I'm having a hard time with trust, I breathe in the love, and I just let go of all of my junk, my muck, my stuff, this junk that I'm still hanging on to. I've let go of so much, but I'm still hanging on to so much as well. So I just really breathe into that, and I forgive myself.
This is perfect, Jody, because I've been taking notes copiously. It's perfect for everyone, Sophie and Rebecca and Sean as well. But what stood out in my notes is this Zoom call. Yeah, there's no power in the victim, but these stories that we have written have the nuggets to shine tremendous lights. I've said this in my other videos. If I come in here as some new age life coach and give you a bunch of spiritual teachings, you have every right to shout me down. But if I come in here as somebody like Jody is saying, who emerged from a hopeless situation, it's kind of like a 12-step program. These are our qualifications, and nothing has gone to waste. Sean and I are Course in Miracles students, and in our community, there's an essay floating around by the name, it's called The Script is Written. And it's in my last video, fear causes mental illness. Truly, my psychiatric parable was established before I was even born. And my emergence was established before I was even born. My role is to jump into the dream character, and the only authorship I have is the way I perceive the dream character itself. Am I going to love his story, or am I going to, not love his story? That's where I have authorship over how I perceive the story itself. Now, this is why I'm not here to tell people how to heal. I'm here to share what my emergence looks like. I'm a wordsmith. Healing and emergence, we're rethinking the model here. So, while we're rethinking the model, we're going to bring an old Ray. Hi, Ray. Hi.
Hello.
Talk.
Hi.
You're
Sorry
a little
I'm so
bit late.
late. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hey.
Here's why I want Ray. Ray's been on several Zoom calls, and he's emerged from something that everyone here wants to. Ray's one of my regulars. That's why I want him to talk.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ken. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Let's see. Is there something specific, or we just talk?
Rust.
Huh?
Rust.
Rust.
No, trust.
Oh, trust. Yeah, trust. Okay. Well, trust. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been on this journey for a few years. And yeah, trust is the biggest thing. I've found for me, that's all. At some point, that's all I had. Like I just had to trust that something was guiding me inside of me somewhere, and that things would get better, and they did. But at times I didn't believe they would. I don't want to, I don't know how much, I don't want to like get into the details too much, but you know.
Well, the point is you kept going. You're here.
I did.
That's all
And I
that
got
matters.
off the med, and it was 3 years of the hardest 3 years of my life.
People, I have this saying, fall down 9 times, get up 10.
Yeah.
People in recovery think, oh, I'm going to recover from drugs and alcohol. I'm going to go to an AA meeting and recover. No, you slip and you slip and you slip and you go back and you go back. And it takes when it takes.
Yeah.
What it looks like. This is no different from recovering from drugs and alcohol, except this is 10 times harder. Well,
no, as soon as I accepted that it was a drug, that I had a drug problem, it became easier, because even though I was given to me by a doctor, it didn't make any difference. I was still going through the same stuff that somebody who got addicted on the street was going through. I mean, that was hard to accept, but I did.
Well, and then the other thing we were bringing up earlier is Sophie asked Jody, that's why I archived these, because these questions are so valuable. Sophie asked Jody, how do you deal with self-blame? Now, perfect, because every good recovery program is gonna say, that's why they put alcoholism into the disease model. If you can put it into a disease model, then it removes it's no longer personal. So
Yeah.
it's an attempt for the treatment center and the recovery model to pull us away from the propensity for shame and guilt, which will keep us caught in the spider web. So that's got to be brought up too.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we can't go back. What's happening often is if we don't blame ourselves, we then go and blame the doctors, and neither one works. We have to find the middle road, which is and it was brought up earlier by Jody when they started talking about breathing exercises. It's the present moment. How do we get present beyond the stories of right and wrong and damage and even health? Emergencies is where I prefer to meet people. That's the vernacular I prefer.
There's the concept of radical acceptance. And when I was first introduced to that a few years ago, that I understood intellectually what those two words mean. But in terms of like actually putting it into practice, I had no idea how a human being could do that. But you can.
Well, that's exactly what happens when I take outreach calls is I'll listen to the stories until somebody finally says, I don't know. And that's finally when I stop them and I say, stop. There it is right now. You don't know. You don't know how to emerge. Now, but it depends on how we say it. If it's a negative that we don't know, no, it's the truth that we simply don't know. But when we then anchor that we don't know, then we ask how, with a true, sincere, prayer. And that's the beginning. When we say, I don't know, please show me. There's the prayer right there. That's why it's spiritual back every single time.
Yeah.
No one taught Helen Keller how to say water. I don't remember the miracle worker. I don't remember her name. Is it Ann Sullivan? Ann Sullivan had to put her hand under the water and take her other hand and put it in her mouth and start, pulling her tongue out until Helen Keller mustered the word water. So, this is where we're going here. We're learning to say water. We're learning to say emergence, the present moment, trust. It all ties in.
Yeah. Yeah.
We haven't heard from Naren. I don't. Let me see if I can get my glasses on. I haven't seen you, Naren. I haven't seen you in our Zoom room before. if you feel comfortable unmuting yourself. There you are.
There you are.
Thanks for
Thanks for the camera.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, it's my first time here and I'm listening and a lot of things are resonating, so I appreciate this call.
Well, we
appreciate.
I'm getting
an echo.
Oh no. Naren?
No, the echo should have gone now. Should be better.
Oh, okay. An echo was coming from you. No, Naren, thank you for participating. Just by showing up. That's all it takes. You know, people think prayers have to do with some sort of, you know, supplication. It's not. Prayer is showing up in open-minded. I'm a 12-stepper from way back, and we had a saying called HOW, HOW, open-mindedness and willingness. Thank you for showing up, Naren.
Thank you.
All right, we haven't heard from Kristen yet. You're one of my regulars. Any interested in unmuting yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I almost didn't make the call again. I'm always like, oh, I don't want to do it. You know, I always tell you that with my panic, but.
And you did it anyway. Their
Yeah,
prayer.
I did it. I'm like, oh, is this really dumb? Why am I doing it? Blah, blah. But then like when I hear the stories and other people, I feel some type of unity because you know, there's a lot of loneliness to this. So,
Kristen, just notice that's notice that voice.
Yeah.
Not without trying to shame or scold or silence that voice. This is what Sophie and I were doing yesterday afternoon. We were just simply noticing the voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we notice the voice, it creates a small spatial gap that can open up the question. If I'm the one noticing the voice, then that voice may not be coming from me.
Mm.
It's a spiritual tool that I learned from a mystic by the name of Muji. It's one of my tools.
Okay,
We've all got the voice, by the way.
I kind of don't understand that. Sorry.
It's all right. The Zoom will be archived along with the Muji explanation.
Okay. Yeah, I know Muji. I just haven't read him recently. I know I'm blah. You guys. Excuse me for not being like so like on it, but I'm a little blah.
No, I don't allow apology in this room. You showed up and you participated. No apologies at all allowed. All right, we got two people. We got I think Sean said Teresa wanted to, or Tina or Teresa. I don't remember.
Tina has her hand up, I think.
Okay, Tina had her hand up, and then I saw Robert waving his hand. So let's get to Tina first. Tina, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi, Kenneth. I wanted to address the subject of blame. Excuse me. I've been talking to several people recently, and there seems to be a common theme that people blame themselves for, you know, thinking they made a bad decision, not making the right choices. Yeah, I was in that spot at one time too, but we have to ask ourselves, surrounding that specific situation, whatever it is for each person, what is a truth about that situation, right? So a truth for me was, in hindsight, seeing a psychiatrist and getting involved in all that was not the right choice for me. But at the time, what was the truth at the time? The truth was I made the best decision with the information that I had at the time. So I was doing what was best for me at that moment. Okay, so people stop and think about what was your truth at that moment. What were you doing for yourself at that time? Were you doing what you felt was best? Was it a choice that maybe you didn't know if it was best, but you're trying to get yourself better and look at the truth of the situation? Another thing that helped me with that was I realized at some point I needed a clean slate. And in order to have a clean slate, I needed to clear my heart, forgive people, forgive myself. In the process of learning how to forgive others, people that had done me wrong, I was also able to forgive myself during that process.
Oh boy, I could jump on that if you wanted me to become a windbag. And I may jump on that. Well, there's two things I want to jump on. number one, people said, just forgive yourself. Just forgive yourself. And people told me, forgive others. Forgive others. Number one, I didn't know how to forgive others because I didn't know how to forgive myself. And number two, I didn't know how to forgive myself because I didn't know how to forgive others. It was a clusterfuck. So because in the old model of forgiveness, you did something wrong, but I'm going to be a noble and generous and virtuous soul, and I'm going to rise above what you did wrong. No, doesn't work. It leaves wiggle room to go back into the story itself. It's trying to be a better person. It's based in duality. I had to become a Course in Miracles student, folks. The Course in Miracles rises above the conventional model of forgiveness. And I think Sean Nelson is still on board, and I'd like him to address this because he can explain it better than I can. But the conventional model of forgiveness is how we set the intention, but we got to go even higher than the right and the wrongs. Okay, so the second thing I heard Teresa say was clean slate, and I couldn't be more thrilled that she brought that up. It was Tina, not Teresa, because I posted a video called Control Alt Delete. And it was almost like a bankruptcy. But bankruptcy exists for a reason. All right. It's because all of us, have got to do a Control Alt Delete here. And there's no failure, no mistake. And we've already covered that. All right. But I do want to get to Robert because I saw you raising your hand and you participated on Wednesday. We did a midweek Zoom call. Robert jumped in. Robert, there was something you wanted to share with the group. You got to unmute yourself first. I'm waiting for you to unmute yourself. And until you unmute yourself, there you go.
Yeah, just want appreciate.
Robert, you got a lousy connection. Try it again.
iPhone.
Robert, I'm not getting you. You're fuzzing in and out. Can you go somewhere where you got a better connection? Because then I'll have to go on to the next.
Okay, go on to the next. I'll be right back. Let me walk around the house.
Yeah, mute yourself in the interim, and then when you get a better connection, raise your hand again. Sean, are you still on board? Because I want you to share with us, the model of forgiveness that you and I, are inside of in our Course in Miracles. There, Sean, can you touch on the topic of forgiveness, because that's coming up, and I want it archived, how the Course in Miracles handles the concept of forgiveness.
Course in Miracles teaches kind of a radical form of forgiveness, because the Course is teaching us that truly we are divine beings. And as a divine being, there truly is nothing you can do wrong. Unlike, I was raised in the Mormon faith. And, I would say traditional forgiveness is forgiving your neighbor for what they did to you, but you're not going to forget. You're going to continue holding it in mind and give them the gift of your forgiveness. Course in Miracles is very different than that. It's really coming home to the fact that we are Christ ourselves, that we are divine beings, that we are cosmic love and light. Cosmic love and light cannot fail. It cannot do anything wrong. It cannot impose anything on anyone. It's very radical to understand that in our minds, because we see ourselves as separate. But the Course's path of forgiveness is reminding us that we are not separate beings. And each one of us here in this call, each one of us here on this planet, are just another incarnation of the one self. And so to release your brother is to really truly see that they are a divine being, that there's nothing that they could have done wrong, even if they, the worst thing that we can think of is, murder. But even the Course says, even that is something we sign up for. Kenneth brought up the script is written, and we all agree to certain things before we come here. like contractually sort of. And so if someone shows up to be injured by someone else, it's something they've agreed to beforehand. And then once, you know, in truth, when we are, how do I say? In truth, when we are released, we look back and we see that this experience of form was like a play on the stage, and it really has no bearing to the truth of anything, because one of the most profound teachings the Course says is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And that's really what the forgiveness is based on. So it is a practice. It's a deep, deep, deep practice. I've been practicing this forgiveness thing for many, 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 many years. It's still being revealed to my mind. Like the more we open to it, the more it just becomes more revealed. And that's the place of surrender, the place of trust. And it is a deep releasing ourselves from the past. And forgiveness is a huge gift, because what it does is it helps us only remember the love of the past. When we really are applying it, it will literally like wipe out the old memories of the pain and the suffering, and it will leave us with just the loving thoughts and the loving experiences. And that's what's being held for us. And so that's why it's so important to practice this kind of forgiveness. They call it quantum forgiveness in the Course community.
Folks, these are the metaphysics of emergence, by the way. Sean and I have our own psychiatric parables. You know, Sean and I came out, you know, as gay men, and we had horrible, you know, disconnect with the conventional model of forgiveness. It's because of that disconnect that we had to find an escape hatch. Both him and I have now come back to offer this escape hatch to others who may have been trapped in the conventional model. These are the metaphysics of our emergent stories, and Sean has one too.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to be like a complete cognitive dissonance. And I've had people tell me this before. We don't understand. And that's perfect, because I didn't understand either. Open-mindedness and willingness. It's why I record every single one of these, because you know, if this is the point I got to. The conventional model, it's like Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created the problem. All of us who find ourselves here, now we've got 11 this morning, have realized that the allopathic model is a dead-end cul-de-sac. But that's not a problem. That's an opportunity. All of us here are you know, we put the car in reverse and we're backing out of the allopathic cul-de-sac and we're getting back on the freeway. If it had not been for psych meds, benzodiazepines, trauma, addictions, you know, I would be going down the wrong freeway, the freeway of materialism, the freeway of, you know, all those sheep, folks, the sheep, they're all going over a cliff. The psychiatric parable got me off the freeway, took me into a cul-de-sac. All of us, we're all backing out of that cul-de-sac, but we're getting on a different freeway. I'm going to be like a, you know, metaphysical preacher here. Who wants to pick up the ball and run with that one? You know, Pat Robertson, put that one on your pipe and smoke it. Who wants to go next? Teresa, how is this working for you, sweetie? You were having a rough one on Wednesday, and I saw that you got connected with our chat, and I was thrilled to see you got connected. You were the first one on this morning. How are you? You know, is any of this resonating? Where are you this morning?
I'm having a tough time.
Yeah. We got you connected into the chat, and I you know, what we can't do in this hour and a half can be picked up by the other community members, you know, all throughout the week. I'm proud of you, sweetie. You did it. You're reaching out, and we're you know, putting on top of you, you know, what what they call the light. It's hard work. Being a human being is the hardest assignment in the entire galaxy. All of us signed up for graduate school, whether we know it or not. And that being said, we brought up in the chat room, I wish Kari were here, because Kari's one of my favorite, participants every week. She brings in more metaphysics. She brought in the ascension, and we're all going to the new earth here. I mean, I'm a smorgasbord. I do Course in Miracles, but I back out and I go into completely new age. This is my trail of breadcrumbs. Rebecca?
I'm thinking about it, so many things. What I've had to, so I was in the grocery store this week. I'll just give you a little example. And I broke down because I started going down the rabbit hole about, I'm looking around and about all the things I used to be able to eat and have, and I can't because of what I'm going through. And, and then the whole self-blame, about, what, making the wrong decisions about meds and this and that, and, going down that. Then I'm thinking about disabled people, we're disabled because of that. I'm disabled because of this. And, thinking about someone in a wheelchair, losing their, and how you can either sit there and be like, constantly looping, thinking about what you used to be able to do. And you have to adjust your life, what you can do today and what I can do today. And I can't think about what I used to be able to. What can I have? Instead of my can'ts, what can't I have? Can't I do what I used to do? It doesn't serve me. And some people, are very more limited. It always can be worse. There's other people out there that are worse and can't do what I can do today. So I got to think about what I can do, stop obsessing, so that's what I was thinking about.
Well, that's perfect. I want to meet everyone exactly where they're at. And that, but I'd like to add to that. That was perfect, by the way, Rebecca. I want that archived. And now, this is where I went with Sophie yesterday. She was trying to stop being negative. So I want everyone in this room now to do an exercise with me. For the next 5 seconds, I want to make sure that you don't think of an elephant. Now, on your mark, get set, go. How'd that work for everyone? I know. It's a complete mind fuck. Stop being negative. This is why I'm developing this whole ministry, because this is exactly what is our opportunity. That's the old model is just trying not to be negative, which is perfect, because that's I said it before earlier. That's that now that we've set the intention, now we're going to go beyond the model, and we're going to just notice that there is a voice that is being negative. But if we notice that there's a voice that is chatter, it's like a bird, just think of it like a bird. Like Jeff Foster, one of my favorite mystics before his illness, posted a video about this very same topic. He said he called it a bird chirping. Every time he heard that voice saying, I shouldn't have gone on the meds, or I should have gone into recovery sooner, or I shouldn't have gone to my psychiatrist, he replaced it with a bird that was sitting on his shoulder going chirp, 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 chirp. So maybe the way I can reframe this is we can all become like you were in the grocery store, when you had a bird on your shoulder. My roommate upstairs, had a job once. He was a bird watcher with binoculars. Maybe all of us can be bird watchers here instead of trying to stop being negative. Just watch the bird go chirp, chirp, chirp. You shouldn't have gone on benzodiazepines. You shouldn't have gone to your doctor. You should have known better. Chirp, 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 chirp. I've never been able to make mine stop. Now that I notice the bird chirping, there's a space opening up. the emergence lives in that space.
Yeah.
Jody has her hand up.
And that's how you get the bird to stop, with awareness. That's how it begins. I read this really great book a couple years ago called How to Tame Your Gremlins. So you call it a bird. This guy, I can't remember, and I wish I still had the book. I lent it out and I didn't get it back. They're gremlins. This was the analogy that this author used, and they're just constantly blah, 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 chirp, 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 however you want to conceptualize it. And the first step to silence, to quiet the voice, is to become aware that I am not that voice. I am aware of that voice. And that brings in the first little bit of separation. And once you have that little bit of separation, that's what grows. And it's not that you're going to quiet or silence the voice. It's that becoming aware that this voice is not you will quiet the voice. And this voice is a part of you. A lot of times, like the fear that we feel, danger is real. Fear is a concept, right? So there's a difference between fear and danger. And it's the same thing like with the that little voice. It's there for a reason. It's probably there to keep you safe. But most of us have allowed that voice to just totally take over. Another book I read, Michael Singer, I can't remember what the book was called now, but he talked about the roommate, right? Like we all have a roommate living in our head, and most of the time this roommate is negative. He or she is messy and just nasty, nasty, nasty. We would never put up with a physical roommate like that, but for some reason we've been conditioned to put up with our negative roommate in our mind. And so, sorry for the ramble, the first step to silence, to quiet this voice, is to become aware. I am not the voices in my head. Eckhart Tolle talks about this as well, that separation. I am not the voice in my head. I am aware. I am the watcher. Those are Eckhart's words. I am the watcher of the voice. And it's with that first bit of awareness that creates the separation, and then you grow that separation.
And that awareness that Joni just described, perfect, Jody, you put into words what I was stumbling. That awareness is what grows larger. The larger the awareness grows, those voices don't grow smaller, Rebecca. The awareness grows larger, but it only appears that the voices are growing smaller because you're going to rise above the voices itself, hence the word emergence. Now, Robert, did you get a better connection? Did you want to participate? You got to unmute yourself.
Okay, hello, everybody.
Robert, how did that sound? Were you able to inhale any of that? Do you want to build on what Jody and Rebecca and I were going to?
What I do notice is I'm trying to find a common meaning that I could actually understand. I see people that you're of Christian faith or whatever faith. When you speak in almost biblical words and terms that, I'm losing it. I try to make it very simple. I do have some very, very depressing type of questions that I ask myself, why do bad things happen to good people? And is there an actual hell? Is there, in other words, is there a punishment to not following God's, I'll call them laws? Is there an ultimate punishment that fears us into not sinning? Or, in other words, or is hell, I say to myself, I've been through 10 years of hell. Is this it? Your own private world of can't escape, shooting thoughts, pain, anxiety.
So Robert, what you've just given us is perfect. You've given us a description of where you're at and what you're able to hear from the meeting. Is that correct?
A lot, yes.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, that's perfect. Now this is the reason that I call the trail of breadcrumbs. What I'm going to do, Robert, is you already know this one's going to be archived. on YouTube. Go back and we have to study. We are now graduate students of metaphysics or spirituality, whatever. We have got to become students. Study the words of Jody. You know, study what the dialogue between Sophie and Jody. Study what Sean Nelson. This is the work. We have to study it, and it's not going to happen the first time around. That's why I'm putting these on YouTube.
You know, the Orthodox people, I just want to cut you off for a second, just to give you an idea of how I was, the rules that were instilled in me growing up. I think rules are pushed into us as children. And then we have to decide as we become adults, which rules we're going to break or which rules we don't really agree with. But we're all stepping into life with a set of rules that our families, mainly our parents instilled in us. Some are very scary. I was beaten constantly as a kid. I will not mouth off to a person, even if because of those rules that were literally beaten into me. So I'm not sure if that is everything. How can I put it? My definition of pleasure, I think, since I'm a kid, has been relief. Well, Daddy's not beating me. Oh, I could lay back and just watch Lost in Space on TV. So that door went flying open. Why aren't you downstairs lighting candles for Shabbos? He'd go get the belts, and I would go under the bed in the fetal position in my underwear.
Robert, you're describing my story to a T. I can't.
Well, let me just finish in a nutshell. I'm hearing belts clanging because their bedroom, my parents' bedroom,
yeah,
and
Robert,
my
we can't do that. We're gonna you have the propensity to trigger too many people. This is a valuable.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean it.
And it will have to be for a private one-on-one session. I can't risk too many people getting triggered by that, but I can hear that. I heard every word of that. It was in my story. Now, what I would invite you to do is go look at my YouTube video on my plant medicine teacher. This is a private one-on-one conversation that's valuable, but we're going to have to go into the actual trauma, in a one-on-one session. Who wants to take up the ball and run with that? Let's just kind of pan out to the word trauma itself. Anybody want to go with that? You know, when I removed myself from my psychiatric parable, there was trauma that I was called to breathe and be with and befriend. I hear Sean's back. Let's see if we can get Sean to unmute himself and pick up the ball, because I'm feeling a little bit at a loss for words, and I know he can jump into this.
Jody had something she wanted to share.
Yeah, just quickly. Thank you, Sean. I just want to say part of my healing journey, and I think this is true for everybody, we need to unlearn what we were taught. And I come from a dysfunctional family, and Robert, you did too. And I think probably most of us, certainly most of us on this journey, but most of us on the planet come from a dysfunctional family. So I've had to unlearn all of the dysfunction that my family taught me. I've had to unlearn all of the dysfunction that my doctors taught me. And I've also had to unlearn all of the dysfunction that my society, my culture has taught me. And this is part of the healing process. And this is my unlearning is I read books and I watch YouTube videos, and I'm relearning what resonates with me, my heart and my soul. And I'm letting go of all of that junk that doesn't serve me and learning new stuff that does serve me.
What all of us have come to realize, Robert, and I cannot thank you enough for your participation. You're one of the valuable members, and I only met you on Wednesday. What all of us have had to do. Let me go back and share with you what happened. I was in a treatment center. Let's see, I'm 55. It was 15 years ago. I was in a treatment center, and I will never forget what the counselor said to me in group session. She said to all of us. She said, "From this point forward, recovery is a priority above all else." And she also said to us that if you don't put recovery priority, everything else is gonna crash in around you. This is no different. unwinding ourselves from the psychiatric parable. I don't care if it's recovery from drugs and alcohol. I don't care if we're recovering from, childhood post-traumatic stress. I don't care if it's, benzodiazepines and psych meds. Self-care is now a number one. Now, you use the word pleasure. Yeah, I know. I used to hide under the bed, when my father was, stomping around with his boots, afraid I was going to get hit for something I didn't do wrong when he was drunk. I heard your story, buddy. All right. What we're doing here is, where do I want to go with this? When I say self-care, I'm not talking about pleasure seeking, because that was all I knew was pleasure. I only knew two feelings. I only knew pleasure and pain. We're going for the middle ground between pleasure and pain. We're getting reconnected. Now, I know for many of us, that's a very scary, place, because we've been taught that God is wrathful, punishing. And we're doing just what Jody said. We're unwinding the belief in a punishing God. It's simply not true. It's why I brought a Pathways of Light minister on board, Sean Nelson, who's unmuted himself. So maybe he can pick up the ball and run with that one.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Kenneth and Jody said, this is a big cosmic undoing. Unfortunately, we're seeing on the news right now, the level of the mind, the destruction that the mind that believes it's separate is capable of, that destruction. And that is just so symbolic of all of our lives, of what we've been doing to ourselves because of the things we were taught. And so this undoing that we're all here willing to participate in together, it is a big surrender that we're in. And it's a surrendering the old beliefs, the old paradigms, the old ways of thinking in the world that we're separate and that we're alone and that we are sinful. It simply isn't true. We can give ourselves permission now to release and surrender those old beliefs that no longer serve us. And our number one courageous job right now is to really be in full surrender and love ourselves so deeply and so hard in the way that maybe nobody else has ever loved you. I do this every day in the mirror. I look in the mirror and affirm out loud that I love you, Sean. I love you, Sean. I spend literally time on my bed, flat out with my arms to the side, in full surrender. I will set my timer for 20 minutes and I will do a 20-minute surrender process where I lay and I just give it all over to, for me, it's God or Holy Spirit. And I just give everything away. And one of my favorite lessons from the Course in Miracles is I rest in God. So I give everything away. And I remind myself that I can rest in God and that the past can no longer touch me, haunt me. I'm certainly not healed all the way. I am working on it. I went through years of addiction. I was also on psych meds for years, and I'm not on anything right now. And I just keep cultivating this path of self-love, of trust, of forgiveness. And it's not easy because but along the journey, I've met some beautiful, amazing souls like Kenneth. And, my world keeps expanding in that way and finding people to connect with that can relate to my story. And we can all relate to the stories we're hearing here. And together, we're all getting stronger. That's what's really cool, is we're here holding each other's hand and seeing the light in one another. And that's really what the spiritual process is about, is learning to see that light in one another. Because when we recognize the light in each other, that's when we recognize the light in ourselves. So that is, to me, the deepest practice that we are given in these spiritual paths, is learning to see the truth in each other. And that's what helps us release. If I could see the truth in Jody, Rebecca, Kenneth, who else is on here? Sophie, Ray, Teresa, Kristen, Tina. If I can get a glimpse of that light in each of you, then it helps me remember that I am a divine cosmic being of love and light, because you are a beautiful being of cosmic love and light. And that's where the freedom lies. That's where true forgiveness comes from, because these cosmic beings of light and love can't do anything wrong. Only this body is capable of creating harm. And the body does that out of ignorance. And you're right, we're all waking up to the fact that we don't need to do that to ourselves anymore. We don't need to do it to each other anymore. And the more of us that wake up to this truth, the more we're creating harmony and peace on the planet. It might not look like it right now, but it's happening. It really is happening, because there's so many of us coming to this realization and awareness together. So
one of the things I wanted to add, this was from Sean to Robert, because Robert had some valuable questions. Robert, when we start, filling ourselves with light, people have the belief that if you fill yourself with love and light, that you're going to start feeling better. It's a common belief. What generally happens is when we start filling ourselves up with love and light, it shines on the shadows, and those shadows come out of the darkness like cockroaches when you turn the lights on in the basement. This is a process that is completely counterintuitive. We're not here to put pink paint and rainbows and unicorns on top of cockroaches. It won't work. We're going to turn the lights on, and this is what it looks like for those cockroaches to go scurrying. Once they're out, of the basement, we're going to start stepping on them. So, I understand that this is going to be completely. I had a therapist years ago who sat me down when I was in my 30s, and she said, "Listen, kiddo, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's just going to be the way of it." So remember when, and I know, Robert, I heard every word you said, and that's why I wanted to do a private one-on-one, with you, because a lot of what we've been taught is self-love, according to some of the more, fundamentalist, Christian-based religions, said that would be selfish and narcissistic. You're not supposed to love yourself. Remember, you're a sinner. Bow down before a God and ask for his forgiveness. It was a misunderstanding, and it's a primitive model. And we're going way beyond that. What Sean is talking about is not narcissism. If you want to love the small self, yeah, it would be narcissism. But we're unwinding the small self here. We're loving creator itself, himself, herself, itself. There's no pronoun for creator. It's not a God. No such thing as a sky god. We're graduating from the draconian belief of sky god religions here. They're just based on control. It's like leeches, bloodletting. I put that in my last video. All right, who wants? I can become a windbag. Sean's got his hand up. Pick the ball up and run with it, buddy.
Kevin, wait, there's something very important that if you continue without me asking, I'll just be lost. What is a sky guard? Is Sky God the one that I pray to?
Sky God.
What is that? I don't understand.
That's where the fundamental religions put God on a throne, and he blesses the righteous and he punishes the sinner. It's just a fairy tale that religion's a commercial for the church. Sky God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A hierarchical view of God. There's
Thank
a king, God the king, and we are all the subjects, right?
Yeah, is that the concept?
That's what we're graduating from. We're emerging. That's how we got into our psychiatric parables, be the belief in a punishing God. Now, we're removing ourselves from those draconian beliefs, and we're going to the next level. That's what we do here on Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just leave you guys with something. I have to take off, unfortunately, but I wanted to share. I'm a book person. Things come to me as I, ask. And I'm sure everyone has heard of The Secret, right? Rhonda Byrne's all about manifesting. Well, I've been listening to a new book of hers, and it's called The Greatest Secret. And it's not about manifesting. It's about coming home to the truth. And it's really good. I've been kind of delighted by it, actually. So for any of those readers or listeners, I listened on Audible, and it's really powerful. It's packed with all kinds of teachers, from Francis Lucille to Rupert Spira to Muji to you name it, other ones too. But there's a thing that they are really talking about, which is welcoming. And that's really what I want to bring up right now, is this: when we're suffering, when we're in pain, when we're in depression, when we're in fear, there's this technique that is taught in that book. And I've heard it taught in other circles too, about instead of resisting the feeling, we welcome. We sit back into our true nature. Our true nature is the infinite self. We sit back into the true nature of ourselves as much as we can, and we welcome. We welcome the depression. We welcome the uneasy feelings. We welcome the thing that we are in fear over. We welcome. And by welcoming it, we're letting it dissolve and dissipate in the truth of awareness. So that little book describes it deeper than what I just did, but I've been really enjoying listening to it, because I tend to slip back in depression myself. It's been a lifelong struggle, and I've been really kind of opening to this, so maybe it can help some of you guys too.
Basically, what Sean is just saying is, he said, it's very simple, Robert. It's saying yes. I had a friend once who was an artist, and on his front door, he painted the words in red letters, yes, Y-E-S. He called it the yes door. We have to say yes to life. All of us who come here on a Sunday morning and a Wednesday evening have all said yes to life. We're living, it's a 12-step treatment program, and we're showing up, suit up, show up, and live life on life's terms. You're a nuts and bolts guy, and you like to keep it simple. So I want to share with you the simple language that I can hear. I like it. Folks, we're going to have to start wrapping things up here pretty soon. I only have enough memory. I don't have enough memory for about an hour and a half, and we're coming close. So who wants to start closing us?
Say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for being here, everyone. Mwah. Love and blessings to you all.
Now, everyone take note of what Sean was saying. Sean didn't come here and tell us he had any answers. Sean didn't come here and tell us he was enlightened. Sean came here completely honest and said, I'm doing the work every single day. He's teaching what he needs to learn. That's why I'm calling this support. I'm not here to teach you something you don't know. I'm here to encourage you to start teaching one another and to start picking up the ball and running with it. This is support. This is, I'm just here to prime the pump. I said it last week. All right, we got someone new. We got someone new on board. His name is Dave. Dave, we've been on board for about an hour and 20 minutes. You're brand new. I want to hear from everyone. Where are you at this morning, buddy? Dave, I got you unmuted, but can you hear me? I think
mast cell activation. And
Dave, can you hear me? I'm gonna have
it might be something to try to see if you can tolerate that, and it could actually,
because he'll have to unmute himself. I guess he just wants to listen. All right, who wants to start closing us up? We got Ray, the ones we got left. Tina, where you been this whole time? You always have something to participate and share. You want to mute yourself and see if you can add to this?
Oh, I can add. I wanted to share a little technique that I use that helped me in a lot of different ways. We were talking earlier about blame, unforgiveness. So what I would do is I took a box, a medium-sized box, and I wrote the word unforgiveness on it. And I metaphorically put all the feelings of unforgiveness I have into the box, and I stuck it in a corner of a room. Just set that down for the day and see what that feels like. And I also did it with anger. I wrote anger on a box, and I metaphorically put all my anger in the box and sat it over in the corner. I ended up with a whole slew of boxes stacked in the corner that day. But immediately what I realized was, look at all this stuff you are carrying around with you. It is weighing you down. Anger, bitterness, guilt, regret, etc., etc. So the next day I go back to the corner and I pull all the boxes out and I set them up all on the bed, and I look at each one. I just think about each one for a moment. Think about anger for a second, unforgiveness, guilt, regret, bitterness. And I just pick them all back up and stick them all back in the corner again, because I really don't want to carry all that around with me again today. And within about a week, I just felt like, you know what? I think I need to set all this stuff down permanently, because it is hurting nobody but me.
What Tina is sharing with us, folks, this is not complicated. I belong to a very complicated teacher who teaches the Course in Miracles, which is complicated metaphysics. But who talks about mind training? This is mind training. These are prayers. You know, they always had a saying on the wall of every 12-step meeting: keep it simple, stupid. And my sponsor kept telling me for years, you're complicating it, Kenneth, complicating it. So we're at an hour and 22 minutes. I got to start wrapping it up. Tina, that was perfect. Anybody else have any, we should say in AA meetings, anybody else got any closing statements, closing remarks? Because you don't want to hear from me the whole time.
I just wanted to ask Sean, I think he left, what is the truth? Otherwise, when we mention about, you know, I just don't understand it. I can't seem to get an answer.
Perfect. 67 videos, a website that I posted. We're getting you there, buddy. We are getting you there. You ask that question is the holy grail. 67 videos is your homework assignment, and all these teachers will get you there, buddy.
Okay.
So, Sophie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, when we come together like this, like it came up when we talked yesterday, that, you know, we already know, but we need to be reminded of who we are. Like, remind me who I am. That's what happens when we mirror each other.
It's love.
Please help me, remind me who I am.
It's love. I'm not reinventing the wheel. Okay. Now we're in 23 minutes. Anybody else? Ray and Jody, Teresa or Kristen? Anybody want feel guided to help us wrap this up?
Well, but sorry, I interrupted. I just want to say thank you, because I always get nervous before the call, but I always learn something, and it's a lonely place to be. And when I'm on the phone with you guys, I don't feel so lonely, and I don't know if that's okay to say, but thank you. That's all.
That's honest and beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I wish you were here with me, though, physically.
We are. I
Okay.
gotta end this. I gotta one more thing. That therapist that I had in my 30s, she was a wise woman. I told her, I said, Judy, I am alone most of the time. And she said to me, Kenny, I was Kenny back then. She said, Kenny, do you believe that we're all connected? And I said, yeah. And then this woman looked me straight in the eyes, and she said, how can you ever be alone then? Anyway, okay, who wants anybody else have anything closing before I, give my ending spiel, because we're running on an hour and a half. Ray, Jody.
I would just like to make a comment about that aloneness. I went through my withdrawal alone. I didn't find the Facebook groups until I was just about finished. And I have a teacher now, I have a spiritual teacher, and he teaches about the heart and how open our hearts are. And so the heart is the receiver. And like Kenneth just said, we're all connected, but a lot of times we can't feel that. And why is that? It's because our heart is closed. And why is our heart closed? Because we've been hurt. And it's our safety mechanism, right? When we get hurt, we close our heart. And we think we're doing this to save ourselves, to protect ourselves. But actually what we're doing is we're hurting ourselves more because we're separating ourselves from everybody else. So it's, again, a lot of this stuff is counterintuitive because we've been taught something that's not true. And so we have to go back in there, and this is part of the work. And again, I'm just going to keep being a broken record with breath work because it's so powerful. Open your heart to feel your connection. And if you're struggling, reach out. Kenneth has offered his phone number. I'm going to offer mine. We are all in this together, guys and gals. We are all in this together. Nobody is alone. I love you all.
Thank you.
That is how we're going to wrap it up, because no one can top that. Thank you, Jody. Okay, this is Kenneth Price. I am the psychiatric shaman, the dream character. I have created a ministry. I call it Psychiatric Sobriety. This was number 17 of our Sunday morning Zoom calls. We do these every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. This is for the YouTube channel. All the links are down below. We have another YouTube archive starting, which is our Wednesday 5 p.m. Pacific time Zoom call. This is a ministry devoted specifically for people who have made the courageous decision to exit psychiatry and surrender their pharmaceuticals and benzodiazepines and psych meds. Now, the name of my ministry, I said, is also now on a website, psychiatricsobriety.com. All that's in the description line. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. This is what healing looks like. Okay, we have a community developing, and we have a chat that goes on 7 days a week. So if anything you hear rings true for you, message me. We'll get you on board and we'll get you on the community. Thank you, everyone. Everyone here has chosen life. And remember, there's a slogan of the psychiatric shaman. You've not been damaged, folks. You've not been damaged, because in the last hour and a half, we've been bringing home the truth that who you are, from everyone here. We've all demonstrated that the truth of who we are can't be damaged. All right, let's see. I'm gonna go and let's see, how do I stop this? Stop recording. All right, I'm gonna keep the recording going. I'm gonna stop the recording, but I'm gonna keep the Zoom room open. So we generally go on for about another half hour, but this is the end of the YouTube recording. Go